Denise, ready?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning, Todd County. Welcome to Tuesday, March 7th, 2023, Todd County Board of Commissioners meetings. All commissioners are present, along with the auditor treasurer, county attorney, and county coordinator. Will you please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Once again, good morning. Is there any amendments to the agenda?
I have none, Mr. Chair.
I do have one. I would like to pull 416, move it to the March 21st, 23 board meeting. I would like to do a closed session so all 5 commissioners can discuss this position. It is administration. We are in charge of administration. So with that, I'd like to move it to 23rd, or 21st, excuse me. Is there any other amendments to the agenda? If none, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion by Erickson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Denny. Discussion. If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Consent items.
Today I have the meeting and minute approval for February 21st, 2023, and also for February 24th, 2023. I have a Clarissa Ballroom 1 year 3.2 malt liquor license, a Clarissa Ballroom 1 year dance license, Clarissa Ballroom 1 year setup license, Clarissa Ballroom 1 year liquor license, Head of the Lakes Resort 1 year 3.2 malt liquor license, Head of the Lakes Resort 1 year setup license, Head of the Lakes Resort 1 year wine license, Shady's Golden Eagle 1 year liquor license, gambling permit for Sauk Center Ferry Lake Association, hire full-time dispatch Heather Forsberg, start date 3/12/2023, hire full-time dispatch James Olson, start date 4/9/2023, and this next one, hire full-time correctional officer Holly Winkler, start date. It's listed on here as 3/7, but we were notified after the fact that it really should be 3/9, and I do have the board action present so you can see that we have added on the last board action line here the exact date of 3/9/2023. The next one we have then is appoint eligibility worker Ryan Rohde, start date to be determined. Appoint home and health aide Kathy Kirkpatrick, start date to be determined. Approve, oh, sorry, that one's off, my fault. Approve to hire public works summer help Jaden Evison, start date May 2023. Approval to hire public works summer help Travis Mahler, start date May 2023. And that is all I have today. The only change is adding or correcting that date on 4.13 to be 3/9.
Okay, you've heard the request. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion by Noska. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Becker. Discussion. If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Carried. Thank you.
The auditor warrants I have today, background is sent for review. Recommendation is to approve the auditor warrants with an ACH and a manual payment totaling in the amount of $1,175,565.48. And it is a budgeted item.
Okay, you've heard the request. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Erickson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Becker. Discussion. If none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Erickson?
Yes.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Denny?
Yes.
Commissioner Noska?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman?
Yes.
Thank you. The next item is the commissioner warrants. Background is sent for review. Recommendation is to approve the commissioner warrants with an ACH and a manual payment totaling the amount of $103,195.74. Again, a budgeted item.
Okay, you've heard the request. Is there a motion, please?
So move.
Motion by Denny. there a second?
Second.
Second by Nazca. Discussion. If none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Denny?
Yes.
Commissioner Nazca?
Yes.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
And Newman.
Yes.
Thank you. The next item I have then is the Health and Human Service Commissioner warrants. Background is sent for your review. Recommendation is to approve the Health and Human Service Commissioner warrants with an ACH and a manual payment totaling in the amount of $55,606.18 and is a budgeted item.
Okay, you've heard the request. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion by Becker. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Erickson. Discussion. If none, roll call.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Erickson?
Yes.
Commissioner Denny?
Yes.
Commissioner Nazca?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman.
Yes.
Thank you. And the last one I have would be the Health and Human Service SSIS warrants. Background is sent for your review. Recommendation is to approve the Health and Human Service SSIS warrants with an ACH and a manual payment totaling the amount of $96,943.74. Again, budgeted item.
Okay, you've heard the request. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion by Nazca. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Denny. Discussion. If none, roll call.
Commissioner Nazca?
Yes.
Commissioner Denny?
Yes.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Erickson?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Public Works.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Our first item on the agenda this morning for Public Works is a request for approval of a cooperative construction agreement for Bridge L9172. And if I may have Denise move up to the plan, the map here. The bridge is located on the town line, 171st Avenue, between Candota Township to the left and West Union Township to the right or to the west. It's over the Sauk River in between I can't remember, I think Guernsey Lake and Little Sauk Lake. This bridge, through our routine inspection process, it's a timber bridge, we've noticed that it's starting to show signs of deterioration, both in the piles and the substructure. It's not at the point where it's going to fall in, we're at any urgent need of repair, but since it's getting to that point, we felt it was warranted that we meet with both townships at a joint meeting about a number of months ago. And through that process, both of them agreed that they were interested in seeking replacement of that. Due to the replacement process, they have to work with the county. We help them through the design and through the construction and help them secure funds for the project. Through that process, we put together, as you'll see, if we scroll back up, our standard cooperative construction agreement we work with all our townships and cities on to define the roles and responsibility of the project. They're both interested in that. They approved it. And now I'm bringing it up to the board for our consideration so we can move forward with this project. So I guess our two options are to approve or do not approve the attached cooperative construction agreement. And our recommendation at this time is to approve the attached cooperative construction agreement to move forward with the replacement of Bridge L9172.
Okay. All right, you've heard the request. Is there a motion?
So moved.
By Erickson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Nazca.
Lauren, how does that finance get split, or is it split between the two townships, or is there money available out there from the state, or?
I'm glad you asked that question. So since this is a township bridge, there's a portion of the gas tax money called town bridge money that they can access, and we help them through that process. And as part of that, the rules are that the township is responsible for the first $10,000 of construction money and the first $10,000 of engineering money. So total, they're going to be responsible for $20,000 for this project. Mm-hmm. The project can be anywhere from $250,000 to $400,000. So they're getting a really good deal if they invest the $20,000. Now, since it's on the town line, It's evenly split between the two townships.
Oh, it is?
Yep,
Okay.
so one will pay 10, the other one will pay 10, and they both agreed to that because they agree that any structure on that town line road, they split evenly. And you know what? They were both excellent to work with. They understood what we were trying to get at, they understand the bridge, they want it replaced, so, you know, we can keep safe traffic moving through there.
Yeah.
But a great question.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion and we have a second. Any further discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Carried, thank you. Yep.
All right, our next item is a portion of that project, and that's a request to approve the attached engineering services agreement with Widseth to do the engineering side of this project. As we spoke about before, that the township would be responsible for the first 10,000. This agreement is with Widseth, who's done our township bridges for years and years and years. We feel they're close and the most economic company around there to do this work for us. They size the bridge, design it to the current standards. Once the bridge is designed, the construction plans are there, we get the funding, then we take over as the county and do the construction administration and inspection to ensure it's constructed according to the specs. So with that, I guess our recommendations are to approve, or our options are to approve the attached engineering services agreement with Widseth or do not, and our recommendation is approve the attached engineering agreement with Widseth for the bridge L9172 replacement project.
All right, you heard the request. Is there a motion?
So move.
Motion by Becker. Is there a second?
Approval.
Second.
Second by Denny. Discussion. If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Carried. Thanks.
All right, and our last item is a request to award a construction contract for a 2023 bituminous or asphalt highway construction projects. These projects are pretty big this year. We had a pretty big contract. It included multiple projects. The main projects included in that contract are County Road 11, which is a bituminous mill and overlay from Highway 27 up to Clarissa, Highway 71. County Road 38 from 11 going west out to the county line, and County Road 66 up near Staples. Included, you'll see that in the resolution, we had 5 bidders, with a low bid being slightly above our engineer's estimate, which is 4%. We felt that's pretty good considering we're one of the first counties in the area to go out for bids this season. Since we didn't have a lot of data, we felt that number is pretty accurate, and we feel confident in awarding this contract. So our options are to approve or not approve the attached resolution, and our recommendation is to approve the attached resolution awarding a construction contract to Knife River Corporation for $5,351,251.39.
Okay, you've heard the request. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Erickson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Denny. Discussion. Bids look pretty good for the way the economy is, so.
Yeah, we're unfortunate things are going up. I think we hit it at the right time. Usually if we can get bids out early in the season like we did right this year, we see a substantial savings as compared to bidding later in the year where prices obviously will go up.
Yep. Any further discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Lauren.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, Mike.
First item I have is the purchase of squad equipment for the 5 new squads that were budgeted last year, and we were ordered in May of last year, and we've got understanding that they're gonna be built first part of June, so we're gonna be looking for the equipment, the cages, and all the electronics for them. So that's what the bid is for that. It's 5 squads. Equipment price of $9,482 for a grand total of $47,413. Options are to approve the purchase agreement or not to approve, and our recommendation is to approve that. If you look in the list of items that were up, it gives you the equipment list. On the last page is the labor portion, And that is not included in this board action. I'll be requesting that once the equipment and the squads come in.
All right.
That last one is, yep, that last one, yep. So I just added that for a point of interest. So that's about $3,900 per squad for labor costs to tear down the old ones and replace the new ones.
All right. So you've heard the request from the sheriff. Is there a motion, please?
Can you scroll back up to the original board action, please?
Sure. Getting there.
Oh, I was just seeing things. I just wanted to make sure I saw it wrong, but it was me.
Okay.
Okay. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Nazca. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Becker. Discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
And my last item, we currently carry 26P tasers for all road staff. We've found that the company who produces those tasers will not support any repairs or anything on them. They go bad, they get thrown away. So we have to go to the next generation, which is a Taser 7. We were able to get a cost, a little bit of a reduction in cost. We just ordered the bulk right away. We were able to get that in a 5-year interest-free payments. So the first payment you can see is going to be a little more expensive, $9,338. That includes all the cartridges and things that are needed, including the training cartridges, because we'll have to be retrained on those new tasers. After that, there's going to be 4 more payments of, and I see there's a typo, should be $7,728, and I got 1 extra 7 in there. So that's what that cost is a year, and this is a budgeted item. So your options is to approve the purchase of the Taser 7 bundles, or do not approve the purchase, and our recommendations would be to approve the purchase. The 26Ps that we do have in stock are still functional, and so those will be given to jail staff, court security, and any staff that would be using the tasers but won't be carrying every day.
Okay. You've heard the request. Is there a motion?
I'll move.
Motion by Denny. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Nazca. Discussion. They're not cheap, are they?
No.
They're not. We had a choice between the Taser 7s and the Taser 10s, which is the newest and greatest. And these are like $2,800 a piece, and the 10s are like $8,000 a piece. So we did not go with the greatest and newest. We've been assured by the company that these 7s will be in stock and be supported by the company for a number of years. So
Okay.
made more sense to us anyway.
All right. Okay. So the motion and a second. Any further discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Carried. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sheriff. Human Services.
Morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. I am here with a board action form to just have some discussion and hopefully make a decision on a start date for our new Financial Support Services Manager, Stephen McCoy. Some background. As of February 21st, the Todd County Board of Commissioners meeting, it was approved to promote Stephen McCoy to replace the retiring Financial Services Manager, who is scheduled to retire on June 15th, Lisa Chapin. To ensure adequate training, we are requesting Stephen's new position to begin on March 13th, which is the beginning of a new pay period. This role, it will be difficult to train due to the volume of work tasked with the unit, especially with the peacetime emergency ending in May. Your options are to approve the start date as of March 13th, 2023, 2023 for Stephen McCoy, Financial Support Services Manager, to not approve. It's our recommendation that you approve the start date of March 13th for Stephen McCoy, Financial Support Services Manager, grade 13, step 1, at $32.62 an hour. We are saying this is a budgeted item. There is a difference of $2.73 an hour from Stephen's current salary to moving up into the position. There are currently budgeted salary fringe dollars available to cover the costs for these 3 months through other vacancies within the department.
Okay, you've heard the request. Is there a motion, please?
I'll make the motion, and Lisa came and visited with us during personnel and explained to us the training that's needed for this process to go forward. So with that, it was very good that she came and visited with us, so.
Mm-hmm. Is there a second to this?
Second.
Second by Erickson.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? I do have to agree with Commissioner Becker.
Thank you.
We need to move this forward, so. Any further discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Carried, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Administration?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a board action this morning to approve participation in summer internship program through Sourcewell. So the background for this is Sourcewell provides funding to support student interns hired by the county. The program allows for financial support of $14 an hour up to 640 hours for the duration of the internship. Todd County has participated in the program in previous years. Departments are requesting to utilize this program. The Personnel Committee supports this request for the departments requesting to take part in the program. For the purposes of the program, interns are considered county employees, and the county is responsible for applicable employer taxes, workers' compensation, etc. And the options are to approve participation in summer internship program through Sourcewell for departments requesting to participate, and at this time we have Planning and Zoning, Sheriff's Office, and Administration asking for this, or to not approve, and the recommendation is to approve.
Okay, you've heard the request. Is there a motion, please?
So move.
Motion by Denny. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Nazca. Discussion?
Yes, is this considered a budgeted item or not, Chris? I see it's not checked on there.
Yeah, I didn't check it because departments haven't specifically budgeted for this because the amount is so very low. It's really just that tax portion of that 640 hours, and the rest of that is completely reimbursable by Sourcewell.
So does it come out of each department then?
It comes
that-
out of individual.
In the individual departments?
That's correct.
Okay.
And I should also just note, in the past, the amount was $12 an hour for the wages, and that has just recently gone up to 14 just to be a little bit competitive.
Mm-hmm. And they can only work 640 hours.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay, any further discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Carried, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, standing reports. Auditor Treasurer.
Have a reminder that March 14th is the township elections. If you have anybody that wants to vote absentee, they need to contact the township clerk. Out of our 28 townships, 21 of them actually hold elections. All townships will have their annual meeting that same day. Auditors will be on site starting March 20th. They will be here, so department heads will be actively pursued by the auditors for information. And then our office is just getting prepared for the audit and actively watching the legislature's bills pertaining to our office.
Okay,
Interesting this year, so that's all I have.
all right. County Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to go back to something that was raised early in the meeting. The board asked that item 416 be removed from the agenda and deferred to the meeting in 2 weeks to be held as a private session. Statute requires that we give our reasons for having a private session on the record before going to that private session. If the board wishes to discuss this right now, as a private session, I can assert attorney-client privilege, and we can do that under the statute. But I do think, because we have the press here and this is being recorded, that it's something that we should address before going forward.
Okay,
Mr. Chair, I have to notify the public 3 days in advance of a closed session and the reason.
Okay, well,
Okay.
it's something that we should address now if we can, without crossing any lines.
okay. The reason for the closed session is, it was brought to my attention this morning that, there's a commissioner that has, relatives that work at this individual. We didn't know nothing about it, so I just think there's a concern there, and
Okay.
Okay.
That,
I don't want anybody in trouble.
understood. That does, I think, cross the line into attorney-client and privileged communication, so that's good enough. Thank you.
Okay,
As far as the update from my office, things are going well. We have the typical illnesses and family stuff going on, but the crew is strong, staff is strong, and so all's going well. Thank you.
okay. All right, Commissioners' report. Let's see, last time we started with Commissioner Denny. How about Commissioner Noska?
At this moment, I don't have a ton to report on. I had meetings canceled last week because of weather, and or postponed, I should say. So, just looking forward to the next one.
Okay,
I am similar. I don't have anything new to report right now, so we'll report for the month at the next meeting.
okay. Commissioner Becker?
I had Region 5 meeting, facilities and personnel, and I also had the Mississippi Watershed meeting, which I gave each of the commissioners the updated progress of where we're at and where we're going. So if they have any questions, be able to get back to us. And that's all I had also.
I don't have much either, just gonna report on the next meeting as well.
Okay. And for myself, I'll report on my month of February. On, let's see, on the 1st, I had an interview. 2nd, I had Central Minnesota Council on Aging. We are still meeting with Zoom on that one. Meeting with department heads. On the 6th, Public Health up in Staples. On the 7th, board meeting, work session, interviews. On the 9th, Solid Waste, Rainbow Rider. On the 13th, Personnel. 14th, interviews. 15th, Department Head, Park Board. I got it twice. On the 16th, one watershed, one plan. On the 17th, interviews. On the 21st, board meeting and work session. On the 24th, a special meeting. On the 27th, a JD2 meeting in Sauk Center. And on the 28th, personnel. So it was a busy month, and then along with the snowstorms, it made it a little bit more interesting, but we got through her. So with that, coordinators report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had very similar meetings that match up with some of the commissioners just from the committees that I'm on. And we, within administration, are just making sure that things stay afloat while we are without an HR manager, and hopefully we'll get that resolved soon. Thank you.
Yeah. Is there anything else that needs to be discussed in front of this board? If not, we will recess till March 21st. And we will start the work session at Welcome to the Todd County Board of Commissioners work session for March 7th, 2023. On the agenda today, first is the 2022 P&Z recap with Adam. So, good morning.
Good morning, thank you. This report was provided to you in the packet for the work session, so I won't read through it too much, but I wanted to provide the opportunity to ask questions as we look through it. You can see the numbers from the past 10 years there. 2022 is a little bit above the average. Most of each of those categories was above the 10-year average, but it was down from the previous 2 years. Main challenges last year were staff, with Chris retiring and Jacob leaving and then bringing new staff in. There was a period of time there where it was a lot of running around and high stress, but we made it through it, and the season ultimately went pretty well. Planning Commission and Board of Adjustments, we had some changes in both of those boards, but as of now, we have 2 full boards with alternates, and we're right where we want to be with those boards. As you guys know, we brought those enforcements to you guys with for the assessments for 2022. We've worked closely with John's office more now to take those further, to get some of those longstanding public nuisance items resolved, which has been awesome to work with his office. Property line related things were really, really big last year. I think we had about double what our normal is. I would say that is most related to that first part of the year, with increase in property taxes. People were looking to find ways to split off chunks of land so they had less land base for taxes. We processed a lot of applications. We saw a lot of 2-3 lot plats come through, which created quite a bit of workload for that, which also led to the need to create that small fee for processing these type applications, because it was quite a bit that came in throughout the last year. We continue to operate our low-income cost share program for septic systems. We did 5 systems last year. We hope to do something around that this year, with the potential to do more with the grant that was just submitted last week. We're hoping to get that $150,000 and help a significant number of people out with these septic replacements. Staffing change again was just Jacob left in April, Chris retired in May. Jamie moved from the P&Z specialist to land use planner position, which was a help, but it still was 2 people short there for a while until Sue came in May, and then Kevin was ultimately hired in July, and now we have full staff and we're off and running, and I feel like we're in a really good spot with our staff in the P&Z office. And we also had our summer intern for just a short time to work on that culvert inventory. You can see some other accomplishments, things of note there. Total fees intake was a little bit higher last year, but that was the first year where we increased some of our fees on our fee schedule to kind of match increasing costs with things. So that may be a result of why it was higher, even though the total number of permits was a little bit lower. And we still get our state shoreland grant and septic grant to help to offset some of the staff time. Those things are automatic that we don't even have to apply for. So we utilize those every year to help offset a little staff time. That's kind of the highlights, but I would enjoy answering any questions if there was any.
Okay. Any questions on this? I got a couple. As far as the Planning Commission and Board of Adjustment, I would like to see the pictures of them online. You know, so if somebody goes to apply, they click on, they can see the board itself, who they represent, you know, which district, the townships, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, similar to what the commissioners have online to show which district they're representing.
Exactly, and
Okay.
then their term, you know, if they got a term for,
Okay, sure.
if their term expires in midterm, whatever, you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Because it'll make it easier for the public when they click on there, or when they go to these meetings, they at least know who they are
Okay.
before they get there.
All right. Thank you.
Okay,
I think we can look into that.
I appreciate that.
Yep.
Anything else, guys?
Sounded good.
All right.
Thank
Well,
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adam.
Ooh, ARPA.
Yes, please.
Chris?
Just waiting to set this up correctly. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this morning, at this work session, we are ready to hear some of the committees who have been working hard on projects for the use of the ARPA funds. And just as kind of a recap, I just have from the Auditor Treasurer's Office just a display of kind of where we started and where we are at today. So with the ARPA funds, Todd County received $4.79 million roughly in ARPA dollars, and those were received in 2 separate tranches. We've received the full amount as of now. So to date, we've had $678,000 worth of actual payments made, but we have allocated. I'm trying to see here where the allocation is. I'll find that on a different spreadsheet. So with all of the things that have come before the board for use of these funds, we have allocated or approved 2.3 million approximately, and of that 2.3 million, we've actually paid out 678,000 roughly in dollars. So when we received these funds, very similar to how we did things with the CARES Act funds that we received, the board had set up specific committees, and those committees were charged with coming up with some projects and some ideas on how we could best use these funds, put them to the best use possible. So with that, some projects that have been approved, you can see listed here in green. I'm going to try to just make this a little bit bigger so it isn't so hard on the eyes. But some of the projects that have been approved and specific to these 3 committees that are going to be presenting today, we are going to hear from environmental resources, we'll hear from facilities, and we'll hear from infrastructure. But these are some of the projects that have already been approved from these 3 specific committees. We know that the Justice Center roof project was one that we talked about long and hard, and so all these committees were put on hold until that actually received bids, and we are now in a good spot. The board approved funding for that. So with that, we are going to start with our first group of committee members to speak, and our first one is going to be environmental resources. I'm going to just sort this so we can see what specifically we have on the list and the priorities that were set within the committee. So just to kind of kick this off also, with this spreadsheet that is on the screen and with what you have in front of you, there is the committee listing, there's the committee priority within each item. There's a proposed project kind of description, what that estimated cost is or what the actual cost might be, and then whether or not that is going to get approved and what the expenses are. Impact, whether it's an internal or an external impact, and how do we sustain this? So as we go forward and look at weighing in on these projects, one of the things that each one of the committees was charged with is how do we sustain this going forward if it isn't a one-time cost? So that's listed as well, and then some additional comments. There is a column at the very end for you as commissioners just to make notes as you go along, because we will be doing this over 2 work sessions, so just to kind of help you out. So with that, we are going to talk about environmental resources, and the first project that is on the list is the CD landfill final cover, and that has a proposed financial implication of $700,000. That's a pretty recent estimate that was received, and if I may ask Mike Eberly to come up and we can kind of walk through this. Thank you.
Morning, Mike.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
The visual that you have in front of you today is the current, outlined in red, is the old cell that is in proposal for the final cover. In the gray area to the bottom of that is the new cell that was constructed this summer. With the use of the material that we used in the new cell that was constructed, we placed 1 foot of granular on top of the old cell, so that is currently capped, as they call it. So the material that taken out of the new cell was placed on the old cell. So now the proposal of that 700,000 is to create a fill material to be seeded and for final cover with seeding and final placement of berming. The next slide, if you would, will represent kind of the layout of the installation of the berming, which will control, there you go. If you can kind of slide it down a little bit there. Perfect. The area that's kind of outlined in the red in the upper left-hand corner is the loading area of the closed cell where it comes to the bottom of the granular base, if you will call it there. That is where the berming will be structurally put in permanently. And the main reason for that is the black arrows that you see represent topsoil runoff, and the berming is a solid structure that is designed to keep all the material that runs off of our closed landfill into our own property. The property to the north, there's a wetland and some of that stuff that we do not want to contaminate. So the cost of that closure will include those permanent structural BMPs, best management practices of them berming to control. There's a substantial grade there, so that's why they require that as part of our permit through the MPCA. So that'll give you kind of a good idea. If you look to the bottom where you can see where the roadway comes in on the middle left there. So you kind of got an idea where that roadway access is and our gate is. So the 700,000 is a rough estimate what Winseth Smith and Olding, our engineering design, came up to. So we are ready to release that for bidding. So.
Mr. Chair, if I can add just for the commissioners, so this is something that is not a budgeted item right now, so that's why the request has come through for the ARPA funds.
Has solid waste put any money towards or saved any money towards this at all?
No.
No.
No,
Okay.
no. And this is something that's probably should have been done years ago.
Yes.
And had a separate account set up for it and money put into that account. So when the need come to this, the money would have been there, but it never happened, so now we're dealing with it,
Okay.
so.
So if it doesn't come out of ARPA funds, it would have to come out of general funds?
Taxpayers.
Am I correct on assuming that?
Actually, the solid waste has an enterprise fund,
Yeah.
which is where that would, it would have to come through maybe parcel fees or something of that nature. They'd have to build something or borrow from the county's funds.
Taxpayers.
Now, for your next cell that we're currently filling that will be coming up, is there a plan for the closure of that one going forward? I know this is a one-time expense here, but the next one, is there gonna be a plan for that one so we have the money? Is this a one-time amount of money we have? We won't have this again.
That is correct. We are currently budgeting 50,000 annually for the closure costs of down the road, so.
Good.
Yep.
Okay,
So
any other
you,
questions?
so you can see with this, through this environmental resources, this was the #1 priority from this committee.
So Chris, do we want to talk about a few more of them on environmental, or?
If it's all right, we'll actually go through these one by one, just so
Okay.
we can have a good understanding of these.
All right.
So I was just pausing in case there's a question.
Okay.
Okay, so the next one is I believe the OTS is Old Transfer Station. Is that right, Mike?
That is correct.
Yeah, so Old Transfer Station water and sewer services that were not part of the CAP grant project. And Chris has generated an estimate for that. That is at a $40,000 expense. This also is listed as a one-time expense, and I'll let Mike kind of explain through this one as well.
Okay, the main reason for that is when we established the new facility that's being put in, the transfer station, there was no monies set aside to tie in the existing sewer system and the water system to the new facility. So the money that is budgeted that we are asking for is to hook up the new building to the old building for water and sewer. We had just got, the updated estimate was roughly about 55,000 from Stantec, and that I received from yesterday. And that's with about a 15% contingencies, and that is to hook up both. The reason why we're asking for it now, when Adam was out this spring and we were doing some of the sample borings for the facility that's being established, the septic system, it was put in probably in the late 80s, so we know it's probably not even up to code. We are going to be already doing existing work that's on the property. It's basically a net zero to hook that up. If we don't do it now, then by the time we spend the time and effort to cut through the new asphalt and redesign and all that, it really is a net zero in the long run. So we're just asking for that at this time.
All right. Keep going.
Okay, so, thank you, Mike.
You bet.
The next one that we have on the Environmental Resources Committee is cost-sharing program for business septic upgrade. A startup or an existing business is possible, maybe daycares also. So Adam, if you want to maybe kind of speak to that concept?
This was an idea that came from a lot of the questions we get in the P&Z office about septic upgrades. Our ordinance requires that before you apply for a conditional use permit that you have to prove septic compliance. That's a major hurdle for some of our countryside restaurants. It's a major hurdle for somebody maybe starting a daycare, and it puts an end to those future projects that they would like to do, especially with restaurants. When you have a kitchen, your discharge water probably is reaching the threshold of high strength waste, and then you got to install pretreatment, and it is exponentially more expensive. So this was an idea that was brought forward to maybe create a cost sharing program or some sort of assistance program to help to update those old systems, even if they weren't looking to expand, but at least get them into today's standard for these septics, and it opens up a lot of opportunity. There was several daycares that had potential for opening. We had questions about, and we never heard from those people again. And there's a demand for that type of service in the county, but that's a very expensive cost up front before you even open your doors. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of where this stemmed from. I would say, if the money was there, we'd really have to flesh out the process and what the process would look like and how do you cost share or anything like that. But that's really where it started from.
Okay.
And Adam, that would be more in the rural areas, correct? Because if you're within the town, the sewer would be taken care of within the town, right?
That's right.
So
Yep.
this
Most
is
of them are
more
connected to
rural.
city sewer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay.
Okay, thank you, Adam. You can just stay up there, that's fine. But the next one, I'm trying to go through these as the actual priorities. So Adam's going to just stick around for the next one after this. But Mike, if I could have you come back up, and we're going to talk about this furnishing and installing of remote bin sites for recycling. And that was priority number 4 on environmental resources list, and that had a estimated cost of $125,000. The feeling of the committee was this was kind of an external facing type of a project, and it would be a one-time expense. So Mike, if I can have you just kind of talk maybe a little bit more about that.
Yes, the reason for that is under the state law, currently we are required to get up to about 30% recycling by the year 2030. So this is one way that we can increase servicing the communities that are rurally and also increase the intake that we take at the transfer station now to get to that 30% requirement that the state is mandating for us. And like I say, it's something that is very passionate for a lot of the people in the community. Recycling has continued to improve at the facility. We had a large uptick last season in taking in recyclables, so I think it's something that the community really wants, and it's just another way to provide that service for the people in the rural areas.
Okay. Any
Mike, can I
questions?
ask you a
on
quick,
that?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, if I may? This is close to home for me because, as you may know, in Bertram, we had recycling set out, but people who didn't pay their garbage bills just dumped their garbage there, and so now we don't have recycling in Bertram. What, does this budget include, security cameras or some sort of assurance that we put these out there, with good intentions, but people don't take advantage of it by, dumping garbage and other things that aren't recycling, you know what I'm saying?
Right. And that is a big concern, that there's nothing in this budget as of now. I think when it comes to fruition, the best thing I know, like Bertha, we started doing it in city properties where we place the containers. So there's people around, so it's not just in a real remote area where people can access that and contaminate it. That's worked out pretty well for the county, doing it that way, but it is on city property. But at least then they have access during normal working hours where they can go there and use that facility. But that is the biggest problem with real remote sites, is this contamination. A lot of it is just a lot of garbage. You are right, so.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any
So,
other-
yeah, excuse me. You're talking bins, are you talking the ones that, like what we're using now that we have to pick up and, where the,
Like a roll-off type?
yes, thank you, Chris.
Yep,
The
yeah, no,
roll-off.
that is correct. They are the green recyclable roll-off bins that we service, yep,
Okay,
yep. And that's similar to the dozen that we have at the facility currently now, that the public uses and comes into our site. And we still have contamination, just like John had said, just for that reason, because we don't monitor it and we don't have cameras, so we do still have to manually, I think that's something we discussed on the committee basis. We're looking forward to when we build a new transfer station where all that processing will be in-house with the customer. A lot of issues with, especially in the wintertime, we discussed it on the committee, just because of the slipping and falling and stuff. It'll be a lot nicer for them to be able to process, but we can really control that contamination, that happens even in our facility today.
and how many bins would this be, this 125,000?
It would probably be somewhere in 20 to 30 of them.
Okay. And that would be buying new ones?
That is correct.
Okay.
And we did have a little discussion about the possibility of at township halls, working with the townships and seeing if they'd be interested for their constituents, so it's still, early process.
Mr. Chair, if I may ask, will these bins be like that currently were out where you had to lift up? And the only reason I ask is because I deal with the insurance, and we did have issues with elderly, and they're falling down on them, and then we're paying medical bills later on and later on and later on. So are these kind of like a walk-in thing, or are they something user-friendly? Just asking.
Right, just for a little feedback for you on that, it's a very difficult thing because of the climate that we live in. Even the ones that we have that do not have the big lids like she is referring to, those ones that we have in our yard, we tie up for that reason so they don't fall on people. The other ones that we have are a poly slide door type action, which are really user-friendly. The bad thing is because of the winter, they're frozen right now. There's multiple ones I cannot get open. You cannot heat them, try to thaw them out. So that can be an issue. And I don't know if it's something that, as a committee down the road, we look at is maybe you set them out for 9 months, and in the winter, you just bring them in and you don't offer that service during that season time. The winter time is, the liability and the risk of injury is pretty large. Even in our yard, we got to move them out. We spend a lot of time cleaning and pulling them back in and out. So it's, there's some definite safety exposure there that is not user-friendly in this time of the year, so.
Okay. Any other discussion on that? Thanks, Mike.
You bet.
And Mike, you can kind of stay there for a little bit.
Okay.
That's all right. Okay, so the next one from Environmental Resources, rated as a priority number 5, is impact of JD2 on Lake Osakis and having a study completed. And Commissioner Newman, if I could just maybe have you kind of speak to that.
Yep. Within the past couple of years, we've noticed a decline in the water quality with JD2 entering Lake Osakis, called Miller's Bay. We've had multiple state representatives. We've had state senators out there. And the detrimental of that bay area does affect Todd County as a whole because of the tax base that we receive on Lake Osakis, which is probably one of the top 10 lakes in the state of Minnesota as far as notoriety. So that's where we're at, helping the watershed do a study as far as what's in the bay right now, and trying to clean it up. And that's basically it. So, any questions on that?
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
And then the priority number 6 from this committee is a consultant to rewrite county comprehensive plan, knowing that it's not due until 2030. That has an estimated cost of $25,000, and there's a potential for some Region 5 involvement. But Adam, I'll let you speak to that.
Sure, and it's important to note that our comp plan isn't going to expire until 2030. I did reach out to Region 5 to see if they had interest in being our consultant, and they certainly did, and that's where the number came from for the dollar amount. The reason this came up is when I look at our comprehensive plan, and we use it every day, it just could use an update. It's already 14, 15 years old, and I just think that there's updates needed that would more align with the goals of the county today, and that's just the only reason it's put up there, and it's an opportunity to maybe get that updated and not have to budget for it or have any other impact to the tax base itself.
Okay. Any questions, guys, on that? Okay.
Okay, and then the final one that's listed under the environmental resources, this was one that the board actually approved quite a while ago, and that was for the solid waste staffing utilizing Doherty temporary staffing. The solid waste came forward right in kind of the midst of COVID and really needed some help just because there was a lot of recycling going on, a lot of garbage, a lot of clean out of homes, and staff being out maybe just due to illness. So the board did approve this, and since that time of approval, solid waste has started to budget for part-time staffing needs, and so the $73,871 that has already been expended for this specific project, there is no longer a need for this. So where we had anticipated $129,200, solid waste feels very confident that they are done with the use of ARPA dollars for this project. So with that, at the next board meeting, I would like to bring forward some type of board action that kind of solidifies that, and that we won't be utilizing the rest of those funds, which will put it right back available for use. So, and if I can just add to that, for this environmental resources group, the 2 commissioners that sit on this committee are Commissioner Newman and Commissioner Denny. So took a little bit to catch Tim up to speed because all these things have been taking place prior to his time, so thank you. So with that, I can move on to the next committee if we're ready.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
So the next one that we will be talking through today is the ARPA Facilities Committee, and any of those members who are here, if they want to come up instead of juggling back and forth, feel free to do so. So the commissioners that sit on the ARPA Facilities Committee are Commissioner Erickson and Commissioner Becker. Committee, the first priority project that we have is the boardroom technology. This is something that through the COVID times, this room has kind of become the front and center room that everybody is using just because of the space that's allowed and because of the technology that is in place. We know that we've had some challenges with having virtual meetings versus in person, and the technology within this boardroom was put into place in 2012. So it's been a long time in place, and we've received quotes. We've had those quotes refreshed several times, and the most recent quote that was received last week is $77,329.92. And I will allow Lisa to just kind of walk through what this whole boardroom technology project looks like.
All right, good morning, everybody. So like Chris said, some of our equipment is fairly old, and like technology, everything changes on a daily basis. So, and this isn't budgeted, so it's a good spot for maybe this stuff to come through. I'll just highlight a few of the things that will improve the boardroom up here. We, on the quote, we have 8 wireless mics that will help when the room is rearranged. It'll eliminate cords laying everywhere. It'll help with sound. It'll do all sorts of things with, and then you can probably actually rearrange the room a little bit more than we have in the past. We have also on the quote in the commissioner's meeting room, an option to record. So when you guys have those closed meetings or things that need to be recorded, it's all private in there. It's a separate recording from the normal boardroom recording. We'll have better controls to do the video conferencing and the streaming. Like, since COVID, since everything changed with remote meetings and all that kind of stuff, we've made what we have work, but I think we can really improve on how we do this. For the streaming, my staff is kind of stuck to their desk because we start and stop the stream, and if there's breaks or anything in between, we have to be there to do it. We'll wait for a call from Denise to make sure that the call is ended. With this new system, we can all do that from a push button on a control pad. So that will help my staff eliminate having to sit there, however long the board meetings are, for that kind of stuff. And to get this stuff in place, all the back-end equipment does need to be replaced to provide for that.
So this is listed as a one-time project, but we need to also just be aware that typically these systems require some type of maintenance agreement going forward. So just to have kind of a little bit of awareness that there would be some ongoing costs for this project if it was approved.
In that maintenance program going onward, that would be budgeted within her department, right?
That's correct. This would be budgeted within the MIS
Yes,
department budget.
Yeah.
And I think, Lisa, you can maybe help me out with this one, but I think that maintenance was around 4,500.
I believe it was, yes.
So we would be looking at that type of a budget increase if a system like this would go into place.
So what would be the life expectancy of the system? 10 years?
Technology changes fast.
Yes.
So I would anticipate that we would get 5 to 7 years out of it. We may have some replacement parts as we go along, as it starts to age, but 10 to 11 years would be stretching the life expectancy, just like we did with this room. We've really stretched that. We've been lucky, but we've had board meetings and planning commission meetings where maybe the microphones don't quite work, so we have to reboot the whole system. We've had some technical calls in the evenings because of it, so this would be great to have this project move forward, and especially since this is our main meeting room.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Lisa.
So the next two projects that are listed as priority 2 and priority 3, I'm going to say thing 1 and thing 2 because this is never a fun thing to talk about. It is the rock wall project, and we have this divided into 2 phases. The total project is at $1.6, $1.7 million, but with the 2 separate phases, phase 1 is at $1.1 million, phase 2 is at $600,000. The request is to use ARPA dollars to offset the cost of that project. The rock wall is in disrepair. It is roped off from the public in some areas. We know that Mitch's staff has done a great job of making sure that if any rocks are loose, they're being set aside so that they don't cause a hazard. This has gone through Minnesota Historical Society grant application. It did last year. Because of the size of this project, it did not make it through. We are hopeful that if this gets approved through the board for this to stay a priority, that we can push this through this time. So that is priority 2 and 3 from facilities. It's a pretty big ticket item.
Oh, any questions on this one? This one would really impact taxpayers if we don't get the funding that we need.
That is correct. And we do have a building improvement fund, but this would take up a lot of those funds if we utilize that.
If we were to approve phase one, are we obligated to approve both at the same time? Is that the way it has to be, or?
Nope, actually, phase one when we go through the grant application with the Historical Society, we apply for just that phase one.
Okay.
And then if we receive successful funding for that, we get that completed. The next year, we would come back and do phase two. For this, the ARPA dollars they need to be either obligated or expended by December 31st of 2024. So if we were actually approved through the Historical Society to do phase one, we would just want to make sure that we have phase two obligated in order to use ARPA funds for that phase.
They have to
Just
be spent by 2024, you're saying? the ARPA funds?
Obligated or spent.
Obligated or spent, okay.
Yep, and obligated is actually, you have to have some type of contractual
Okay.
obligation.
All right.
Yeah.
And Chris, we've actually been working on this, and Rod, 8 years?
Yeah. It's been
Forever ongoing.
Yeah, I will
Yeah.
say, if I can just add, I listened to the sessions where the Historical Society met, and they weighed in so heavily on this Todd County project. And one of the reasons why, it's a beautiful rock wall. They want to have it preserved. Funding this project would have taken away the opportunity for 10 of their projects, is what they said. So, they try to fund as many as they can, and this was just too big of an ask last year. So, but we'll try again. As long as the board approves that, we'll keep going for this and hopefully strengthen the application, and with utilizing these dollars, we can get it pushed through.
Mr. Chair, can I ask her a question, please? As long as we're talking about it, because this might be the last time that we do it, and I know that this isn't gonna be popular, but because I've heard from other employees, I'm gonna say it. How, have we ever looked into the cost or feasibility of incorporating the rock wall into a parking ramp out there?
Mr. Chair, no, we have not. When we look at utilizing funds through the Minnesota Historical Society, it is restoring the wall, repairing the wall, preserving the wall. So changing how the landscape is related to the wall and that front entrance. If we want to utilize those dollars, it needs to remain as it is. And if we choose to do something different than that, we run the risk of losing our National Register of Historic Places
Okay.
being on that list. But we've had so many discussions about what to do with it and trying to find maybe some ways to show that the wall, the beauty of it, and maybe do something a little bit different, but then we are not allowed to utilize those funds. And there may be a penalty or a payback because of the funds that we've already received.
I see. Okay.
Good question.
Thank you.
Good question. Okay.
Okay, anything more on that fun project? If not, we'll move on to the fairgrounds parking lot and the asphalt for that parking lot. During COVID times, we utilized the Expo building as our vaccination clinic and received just a lot of traffic through that area. And in the springtime and in any other rain event, that becomes quite the mud mess, and we've had some issues with people getting stuck out there. And we've utilized that for more than just the vaccination clinic. We've held other large events out there just because the Expo building has become such a great building for us and a great resource. So the facilities committee talked about having the parking lot paved, and that came in at a cost of $100,000 estimate, rough estimate. And so although this is not a highest priority from this group, we did at least want to discuss the possibilities of it. So Mitch or Lauren or anybody who maybe wants to speak a little more to this, if there is any more to say. But
I don't think there was any more. It's just in the springtime. We found that during the COVID time with what we were doing, it made it very inaccessible for the Expo building. So that's why this was a part of our list. If anything like that would happen again, we felt that it would be necessary to have the tower in place, so.
Okay. Any questions on this one?
Correct.
And this is one item that I did get phone calls on, going, what the hell are you thinking? Yeah. So, and I gotta respect my constituents that called me on that, going,
Yep.
hey, you got your point. So,
Is that 100,000, is it just for the asphalt, or is it also the site prep underneath, all that whole?
That was, yep,
That's everything though, said
Yep.
and done? Okay.
correct.
any other discussion on that? Okay, let's move forward.
Okay, we have a couple of other things on the facilities committee list. We put these as very low priorities. They're just kind of items that if by chance there would be any funds left at the end or funds that were still being considered, we wanted to at least have these kind of on the radar as items on the list. And Mitch, if you want to speak to these two.
Yeah, so these are items that are, would make the fairgrounds, we're in a good situation with the fairgrounds as far as starting to give the fairgrounds a nice facelift with the buildings. Especially the Prairies Motors building is in some tough condition a little bit. So that those buildings are in need of retinning, and we felt that both these projects would be good as far as getting those buildings back to a priority of usefulness and aesthetically pleasing again. So they are definitely on the lower side of our priority. Obviously, there were some other things that were quite a bit higher, but we felt to leave them off would not be a good idea. So that's why they're there. We haven't looked into too much as far as cost goes, but clearly building materials have fluctuated. They're on their way down now. So that price, we really haven't looked into that price because there was other items we felt were of more importance. So.
Okay,
Okay, and with that, do you have any questions for that?
that's
Any
kind of,
questions?
who choose the color on them?
On those original buildings?
Yeah.
I don't know. I would have liked to found out when pink and green were really in, but apparently that was before my time. So
Pink or a salmon or?
yeah, whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I guess would you like me to speak on the other items that we already approved?
Yeah. you sure
Obviously, the other items that are on there are our big ticket item. I will say the one that is pending, obviously, is the Justice Center roof and rooftops. We really felt, as far as the facility committee went, it was an overdue project, and the bang for the buck that we were getting, and the little bit of obviously there was a lot of stress on our constituents, our eager constituents, that we would put by doing that project, and that's why it was such a high priority for us as a facilities committee. And the other projects, the air handling units, these are units we're very careful. I was careful on the behalf of the facilities committee with picking projects that were due to be replaced. So this has really put us in a good spot, especially in our building improvement funds, to where we've had a chance to build that building improvement fund up. Otherwise, that money would be coming out of there, and there would be no room for error, if you will, if we'd have problems within any other buildings, which do occur at times. So it's really put us in a good spot, and we're really excited for the Justice Center project to start. We currently have re-roofed Annex 1, 2, and now this will be the third flat roof that we'll do. So all of them were in need of replacement, and now that's going to be done. So very excited, very hopeful that we don't get too much rain inside the building this year before we get that done. Yeah, so those things are definitely in place, and a lot of the projects that we were at okayed are already done, so.
Okay. Mr. Chair, if I could. Mitch, our
Yep.
Annex 1 building rooftop, that's totally completed and paid for then?
Correct. It's totally completed and paid for out of ARPA's. The only one that we're waiting on is the air handling unit for Annex 2. If you look on there,
Okay.
the original budgeted was $273,000, and it's at $269,000.
Yeah.
Basically, when they hooked that unit up was this winter, and they need to come back and charge their refrigerant, and they will install or put the refrigerant in the system, check the charge, and they need the temperature to be up. So that's why that isn't completed. So they've held back that amount of money until that is completed. So.
Okay. And the Justice roof, and that's getting all new controls on top of that too?
Correct. We're doing new controls. The controls that we had on that were very outdated. And we will be able to access them from multiple spots throughout the county, where now we have one really, really old computer that we can access it from. So we used to have a Train Tracker 5 system. Now we're going to a new system that is up to date and will be easier accessible. We're also doing away with the pneumatic controls in our building. They'll be DDC controlled, which basically means we went from an air volume control, which is controlled by a compressor down in the basement, to an up-to-date control system. So all of which is good. It's going to be an interesting process. It's going to take some time. I have been in contact with the BCI, who is our project management. I've been in contact with them. And it will be, they're projecting about 4 months the project will take in total, but we're hoping to be able to do the project in sections. So we'll be starting on like the north half. So the individual departments will be without heat or cooling for a limited amount of time instead of an extended period of time. So that's what we're hoping for. It will be inconvenient at times, and I've made some of the departments or had meetings with those departments to make them aware of it. We're just hoping for good weather is usually the best case scenario is what we're hoping for, and we'll just have to deal with it as it comes. So.
And I guess the other question is that 1.5, and that's got a constituent or on it, so that what's the odds of us going over that amount?
The contingency fund was built into the 2.1 million. So was it 400,000 was our contingency? Over 600,000. I can't remember exactly on the bid. This was the actual bid. This does not include our contingency fund money. The contingency fund money was, I think, 400,000. I apologize. I didn't. I can't remember what that was.
We want to make sure that we have enough.
Correct.
Money there to cover.
Yep,
costs.
and I think it was at 20%, so whatever 20% would be of that is what we're figuring, which is on the high end because of what the unforeseen things that we're getting into. But we're hopeful. We'll try and keep it to a minimum is the plan. But you never know when you're remodeling something like we are, what you're going to find when you go in there.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Anything else?
I think getting the roof done over there is well past it's time. It needs to get fixed.
So a typical roof expectancy is around 20 to 25 years, and we were in the 30s already. So
yes.
It wasn't like it wasn't like we're replacing something that is halfway through its life expectancy. The same with the roof taps that are on there. They were beginning to show their age. We're having lots of issues with them. So all around the project is a win-win for the county, in my opinion. We're going to provide better air quality to our employees, and we're gonna do a better job of controlling the type of air they're getting. So that's, to me, is where this project, and we're not allowing our building to leak, hopefully, anymore, which has been obviously an issue in the past.
And flat roofs don't work in Minnesota, and it.
No, they
just
don't.
keep
It's
building.
a continual thing. You know, the biggest thing is for us. The other thing is too is we're getting a better insulation quality than what we've had in the past too. So our R value is going up, which will meet the new code. So that in turn, 90% of your heat loss is out your roof. So that in turn, it's what we're going to see for savings as far as the heating and the cooling of the building. I can't tell you that, but we will see some type of savings that way as well.
Okay. All right. Any other questions?
No, thank you.
Thanks, Mitch.
Thank you.
Okay, so our next committee that we are going to be talking through the projects is our infrastructure committee. This committee has Commissioners Denny and Commissioner Naska on it. So we met just a couple of weeks ago and talked through this final list and set our priorities. And with that, our first priority that we have coming from infrastructure is a skid loader with tracks that has a financial implication of $85,000. It's an internal, a one-time expense, and will provide more maneuverability. And I'm going to let Lauren take it from there.
Thank you, Chris. So our first item is obviously the skid loader. Currently, Public Works has 2 skid loaders, both wheeled skid loaders. This would be an enhancement to our fleet and an additional unit. We feel that adding the skid loader will increase our maneuverability with tracks, obviously, and our ditches are wet. There's some areas that we can't always get to with these wheeled skid loaders or our big tractors. Having this track skid loader will allow to put different tools on there as far as mowers and tillers and whatnot, dozer blades. It'll be more efficient for us as we no longer have to load up a tandem axle truck, a triple axle trailer, and a dozer, big, huge, large equipment that's expensive to operate and maintain. With this unit, we can do that more fast, more efficient, and cheaper as we're wearing out a smaller piece of equipment than a larger piece of equipment. So this is kind of our one piece of equipment that we're adding to the fleet as part of this infrastructure. That's all I had.
Any other discussion on this? Okay.
Okay, and the next item that we have on this infrastructure committee is priority number 2, which is funding for a potential child care center. There was an estimated amount of $200,000 for this project. This would be an external impact, a one-time expense, and this has been discussed through Long Prairie Child Care stakeholders meeting, I believe, Rick, and also through the Growth Fund, I think.
Yes, Long Prairie Growth Fund.
So I'll let Rick just take it over.
Yeah, Doug Schmidt is here from the chair of Long Prairie Growth Fund today too. This has been a project that's been we've been working on for a better part of a year now, especially with the stakeholder group. We have the group contains City of Long Prairie. Chris has participated. We've had all the industry in town participate in this. Long Prairie Growth, which is a 501c3. And Nisha Foundation, and First Children's Finance. What we're trying to do is we see the need in the area here, especially with our industrial base here in Long Prairie, the county seat, for child care within the community. And we've done Nisha Foundation provides some grants to look at, to renovate an existing facility, and that came in somewhere around $1.6 million. We looked at a new facility, that came in about 1.5, which is less money. We've also looked at a pod operation where pods, which is different from a child care facility, where individual child care providers rent space within those pods. Stevens County has done that recently, which is working on that project. They have 6 pods where individual providers, new providers, rent those places at a reduced amount, but they bring in more child care within the community. The facility, the childcare facility is probably a little more expensive. Ongoing costs are more expensive. If you look at infants, that's basically a losing proposition. Alexandria YMCA does that. They lose roughly $100,000 a year. That's one reason we have looked at an option for the pod facilities, because it would be the spaces would be rented. Also, the spaces could be, if it did not work out or if they weren't all done, they could be rented out basically 1-bedroom apartments, also at a higher rate. it's been a steep learning curve on childcare, especially for me, learning all those things. But as far as trying to look at the business model, we're looking at funding through our local industry. There's some grant money out there through the state, of course, not a lot. They focus more on infants and toddlers for the money they provide. Federal money may be out there. And that's where we're doing the ask from the county here. The city's involved too. We've looked at other options through the city for funding too. And as far as ownership, we looked at a 501c3 nonprofit, working through us and Long Prairie Growth, or maybe turn it right over to either the city or county, whoever would be interested in ownership in the project. But a lot of moving pieces come into this. So the reason we asked for $200,000 is because what it does bring some ownership within the county seat and brings takes care of a need within the community. And I know a lot of people out there who run their kids to 2 different child care centers because, well, they take toddlers, they have a spot for an infant. So it's a growing need within the county.
Area. Any questions on this one? Anything? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next one we have on the Infrastructure Committee group is priority number 3, and that is the Wobegon Trail. There's a proposed financial impact of $290,474. This is an external impact, a one-time expense. And Lauren, I'll let you take it away.
Sure, thank you. The Wobegon Trail is a trail operated by Todd County on top of the MnDOT rail bank. It goes from Douglas County line down to the Stearns County line. The original trail was constructed in 2006 and is in definite need of repair. Therefore, we've scheduled and are proposing a proposed overlay project on this trail in the summer of 2024. Currently, it's included in our 5-year plan and scheduled to be funded through our local option sales tax. What we're requesting this is a one-time expense to pay a portion. We're recommending half of that project to be funded with these ARPA funds at the current cost estimate of around $290,000. By using these funds to help fund that project, we can then use those funds to help do other projects on our county road system, which would be other overlays, other gravel surfacing, and or improvements, which would be bituminous surfacing on some currently gravel surfaced roads, currently on the county road system.
I got a question, Lauren. Is this for resurfacing the whole part that's within Todd County?
Yep, from county line to county line. Yep.
County line to county line, and that 290,000 is half of the cost?
Yep.
Or is 100%
Half of the cost. Yep.
Okay.
So, Mr. Becker, we're talking about 7 miles of trail. The board previously, before I got in, approved or signed a contract committing Todd County to this 7 miles of trail. And we finally got it going in 2006, finished it because we were, Stearns County had already tarred up to their line and Douglas County already tarred up to their line, so we finished it in 2006. We get calls periodically on maintenance, tree roots or whatever growing through it, so it needs to be overlaid or reclaimed, and there's a lot of people that use it, so. Yep. Any other discussion? Okay.
Okay, and the next one on the list is priority number 4, broadband grants for providers, and we have a proposed financial impact of $50,000. This kind of stems from what the board recently did by approving financial support for SciTech in the event they are successful in getting their border-to-border grant. So we thought that it would be great to set aside some funds for any other provider who was going to be proactive in trying to get high-speed internet broadband to the home. So We anticipated $5,000 max grants and only awarded in the event that they are successful in receiving their grant, and the set-aside ask was $50,000. And Rick, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Basically, what it does do is shows a buy-in from the telecoms or from the state. When you apply for state or federal grants, the more partners that are involved, it makes a huge difference on getting those grant dollars for this. And it can be capped at a certain amount per project if it needs be on that, so.
Okay. So the meeting in Brewerville on the is it the 15th?
It's the 15th at 7 p.m.
Yeah, it is, okay. So we'll find out more information with the broadband and stuff on what's going on, what
The
the needs
Broadband
are.
Coalition?
Yes.
Yes, yeah. In fact, current projects right now, Techstar, which is they have a big project northwest of Little Osakis, or northeast of Little Osakis, I take
Okay.
that back. Then also between Long Prairie and Brewerville, on the east side of 71, they've applied for a cap $4 for that.
Okay.
Or cap 3, one of the two. And of course, they're the ones with Upsala, SciTech, that would be in pending applications.
All right, any other discussion on that?
Okay, and the final one that I just want to point out from this infrastructure committee is that the board did approve quite a few months back the broadband survey costs from the Broadband Coalition. The board approved up to $20,000 to be used for mailing out the surveys, for any advertising that needed to take place, and with that, to date, the Broadband Coalition spent $3,565.50. Their survey is complete, and they are planning on providing those results at their meeting on the 15th, and I will ask them to come to a work session to provide those results here as well. So that was just the approved from this infrastructure committee.
Okay. All right, any questions on that?
So with that, just a couple of things. I want to just first really thank these committees as they've been walking through this process and then being on a hold and then working very quick to come back to work sessions, and thank the commissioners who've been on this, because we've pulled meetings together on pretty short notice. And at the next work session, we will hear from community health, public safety, and financial administration. And just kind of a thought to keep in mind when we look at the projects, such as Mitch stated with the Justice Center. Some of these projects, we have a cost today, but we don't know what that cost might be down the road. So I would just ask the board to maybe consider some sort of set-aside amount that we have available as these projects move through, so we don't run into a problem where we don't have any funds left or we've overspent. So just a consideration.
Yep.
I think that's a very good suggestion, Chris.
Yep, I agree. Okay. Anything else?
Not at this time, just expect to hear more at the next work session on the 21st from the remaining groups.
Alrighty, thank you so much, and thank you everybody for going through this work session, and we are